Welcome everyone. My name is Chris too. Actually it's Krzysztof, but for those of you who don't speak Polish, it may not be so obvious that my name is Krzysztof, not Daniel. I have come to you from the beautiful city of Poznań, and for those of you who don't know where Poznań is, it's located slightly to the south to the Warsaw, at least in this football rank. Before we start with the presentation, I have to make a confession and tell you a few words about myself because they put important context on the whole presentation. And the most important thing you need to know about me is that I'm a really heavy gamer. I like games and playing games, and I play almost everything what's possible. You may wonder why I'm telling you this, and I'm telling you this because all those games have one thing in common, and this common thing is called strategy. It's basically about not getting your ass kicked. But as I grew older and older, those games stopped being sufficient for me, and actually some money appeared on the table. I had to start being very careful for which company I work for. And then I got this email. This email appeared in my inbox exactly when I have realized that my then current employer had no strategy. Well, actually they said they have a strategy, but their strategy was to maximize shareholder value, which means they did almost everything wrong. They were laying off people, they were buying back shares, they were making savings on the quality, which isn't good. So I didn't hesitate long. I accepted this position and started my career as a quality assurance consultant. Let's call it that way. Then I arrived to the company. I intentionally skipped the name, but if you are curious enough, you may probably check it up on my LinkedIn profile. This company was delivering electronic exercises. You know, if you are learning foreign language, usually at the last page of the book, you have a link to a web page where you can go and find additional exercises. The point is that this company created their product in the right time. Well, almost in the right time, because they were waiting with their products for 10 years before market got ready to actually buy it. And once the market was ready, they had too many customers to serve. Customers formed a queue and everyone was demanding their product. Well, the consequences were like this one. They have grown 11 times in less than 1 year. They had 11 or 12 employees in January and more than 120 in December. And I can describe them in basically 2 words. They were highly successful. You know, of course, they had problems. Everyone has problems. And I bet you would like to have those problems and to have a company like this one being so successful. But their big problem, the biggest one, just arrived. And you may try to guess what was their biggest problem, and their biggest problem was their big customer. It's a world-class publisher who found a good product provider in Poland, asked them to deliver one small product, they succeeded, and then come to them and said, take my money, build for me something similar, but we will have to serve 3 orders of more customers, and you have delivered 4 or 5 times. I don't recall the numbers right now. And the customer turned out to be a really good negotiator. What does it mean that a customer is a really good negotiator? It means that he protects his own business. And protecting his own business meant that he managed to put 3 big, fat, anti-agile clauses into the contract. Those clauses were fixed scope. The customer knew exactly what he wanted from the company. Fixed price. He knew how much he will pay for it. And fixed deadline. He knew when the service will be made available for his users. The question that comes to mind is how it's possible that the company managed to use Agile and Scrum to build projects in that way, because they built all their projects that way. Those slides are intentionally black, because developers always finish on time if you take care about them properly, or in other words, apply sufficient pressure. And for smaller projects, it really worked. They had some technical depth, but it was quite okay. The problem appeared with the big product because it was no way to build a product with that kind of SLA and scalable to 3 orders of magnitude using Agile. You know, they were late from the very beginning. The project was going down. The question is, today I know the answer, whether they could avoid the whole situation. When I arrived there, I was convinced that it was management failure, that they have agreed for those 3 clauses and attempted to build the product. But on the other hand, I think that if I were them and such a big customer approached me and said, take my money and build similar product to what I have already built, I would be very tempted. I would shut my mind down and sign the contract. And that's what they did. But the answer is that yes, it was avoidable. It would be avoidable if they had a strategy, if they knew what kind of products they are building and what will happen with their products in the future. So I'm going to present you a short introduction to a framework that lets you to visualize your company and make some assessment where your product is going. So let's start with the simple example. Let's try to build situational awareness for a company selling cups of tea to its customer. This is a classic value chain. What do you need to sell a cup of tea? You need some components. They could be software components in software companies, but here they are not. And to prepare a hot water, you need kettle, water, and you need some power in the end. This is a complete value chain that can be built for each company, for each user need. This is the important part. But it doesn't tell you about the project maturity or the component maturity. You don't know whether you should take care about scalability issues, which framework for development you should apply, whether you should be Agile or maybe Six Sigma. You have no idea here. That's why you need something more present on this chart. And you need a bit of theoretical introduction. This is something called evolution curve. It has 2 axes. It's certainty, which means what can you expect from, how well you know what to expect from particular component, and ubiquity, which means how many customers or how many companies are using particular component. Let's think about examples. For example, electricity. When it was described first, 2000 or even more, nobody saw any use for it. It was the genesis. Nobody was using it. Nobody was sure for what it can be used. Then we have Tesla and Edison work, which popularized electricity in 18th, 19th century. And right now, electricity is a cost of doing business. You have to have electricity if you are running a company. The same applies to computers. Here we have some first mechanical computers of Greeks a couple of thousand years ago. And over there, we have Amazon with their computing power, which you buy just when you need it. What's interesting here is that here is a very strong correlation between those two axes, which means you can straight this line up, make another axe from it, and apply to value chain. So in a result, you get something called a Wardley map. A Wardley is the name of the guy who described it first. So what we can see here is that if we want to deliver a cup of tea, we need tea and hot water, which are quite well understood, and we need some place where we will serve the tea to our customers. The point is that the place where our customer will sit is on the left, is undefined, because we don't know how to build one and how it will look like. And actually we can't outsource it to someone, because if we hire if we ask an architect to build such a place for us, every change that we will try to make will cost us money. So if we say, I want blue, okay, $20. Maybe more light, okay, $20. This is the same with software. If you are trying to outsource building software to a company which uses Agile from the perspective of the customer, you are entering a contract with the devil. So either the company will suck a lot of money from you, or you will end up with 3 anti-agile clauses. On the right side, we have a very well-defined components that we want actually to buy on the market. There is no point using Agile for buying power. This is a bit abstract example, so let's move to the company I worked for. They've delivered e-training. They had their framework developed internally, which is custom built. They had virtually non-company culture, very poor development operations, uncertain. They had no idea what they could expect. And on the other side, they had a very well-defined process of content digitalization. That means that their expert usually was taking a book, looking at it and saying it will take 3 weeks. And they've always managed to digitalize a book in 3 weeks, because they have done it tens times. On the other hand, the framework was still in its infancy. And this is what their big customer required them. Right now, in this one slide, you can see the obvious gap between what the customer required, what the company had. In this one slide, you can see that the company should never accept this customer, because moving the whole company to that level is something that will take a year or maybe 2, and maybe then we may not be ready. Those are things that you can read from this map. I mean, the company had no skills to build the SLA, which were impossible to build. The failure was approaching. Of course, the company didn't trust itself, and it attempted to change the way it worked, but it was impossible in a very short time. So now, we are approaching the end of the presentation. There is a question. You know that this is the agile part, which you should not outsource. This is the outsourcing part around Six Sigma. The question is what their customer could do in order to still get the product. There is a solution. You know that outsourcing will not work in this case, But this is the ultimate solution that is obvious and counterintuitive in the same time. If this has to be done in-house using agile methodologies, then for the customer, the only option was to buy them. And this is what actually happened. To sum up the whole presentation, if you don't have a strategy, if you don't think how your product will develop and gain market share, you are asking for troubles. Agile is a really good solution for building components for which you don't have a lot of knowledge. You expect a lot of changes, you will be learning a lot, and you can adapt only with Agile. On the other hand, applying Agile for well-defined activities which you have done tens of times in the past, it's a waste of time, because because you need a lot of introspections, things like that, which take time, and you don't need them at this level. 3 more things. Actually, one. This presentation is under Creative Commons Share Alike attribution. There is more materials about mapping and situational awareness, and even a free book to download. And I think it would be all. If anyone has any questions, that I will be around here till today evening, and I will be happy to answer or even teach you how to create such a map for your company. Thank you.